Hey everybody, I wanted to introduce your next assignment in our unit. As you know, we've been talking about the feminist critique, feminist perspective. We've been analyzing some different texts using different questions, looking at that perspective, particularly with the genders, remember? All right, so our next assignment, what you guys are going to do now is in your groups you get the chance to analyze a text that you choose. All right. So remember, let's make this appropriate. You want to use something that you have a lot of information from or with that you can use. So make sure it's something, a text that maybe that you know very well. And that you are going to be looking at in a different light. That would be my two little pointers for that when selecting a text. All right. So on Canvas, I have it set up that you can see the assignment. Like it says, you're going to choose a text where you could apply the feminist critique, and you guys get to create a presentation to show your analysis of that text with that perspective. Okay. So make sure that you are using the different questions that we've been talking about in class, right? How are women presented in the text? How are the men presented in the text? How do they interact with each other? Or, in other words, how is the relationship between men and women presented, right? We've been looking at this the whole time when we looked at Legally Blonde, right? We saw how women were being represented when we looked at that video, how the men were being represented. Remember looking at the frame and seeing who's higher in the frame, who's lower, right? Maybe who the face is shown bigger or not, right? Things like that. Look at the way the people are presented in the frame as well, right? And then to what extent does the portrayal of men and women support a patriarchal view of the world? So remember, we've been talking about this patriarchy and what does that mean, right? And we've talked about how it's like a male, I wouldn't say dominated, but where the male is in charge, right? We've talked about family structures when we brought this up, remember? And so we talked about how like the father is the top of the family. And and discussed in class how, sometimes we see that differently nowadays. Remember, I gave the example of how my mom was more like it was more of a matriarch family because she was the one that kind of like ran the show. Remember how we talked about that? So use that and remember using that lens while you're watching just to kind of see how the different genders are being represented and shown. You might find some things that you didn't see before when you're looking at it differently. So I think you guys will really like this assignment. All right, so that's the content part, right? The way you want to present it is up to you. I'm giving you guys the ability to choose how you want to present this information that you found, right? So do what you're comfortable with, but I also challenge you to maybe push yourself outside the box. If you've always done a Google slide or a Prezi, maybe try to do something different this time. You might find that you like it too, and you can add it to your your inventory when you do presentations later on. Okay, so I have provided you guys with some resources that you can use to present your information, to show what you've learned and what you've found out through your analysis. Okay, so if you like doing a presentation style, of course, you can use Prezi, Google Slides. I know Microsoft Sway, you can do a presentation. So there's so many things you could do. I've just suggested a couple here that I think are easy to use. But remember, you can use any format that you think is appropriate. If you want to just check with me real quick, that way I can make sure, or maybe if I've worked with it before, I can tell you more about it. Things like that. Definitely shoot me an email or let me know, right? If you're into making videos, those are really cool. You can use Powtoon or iMovie. You all have your MacBooks, so you can use iMovie. We've used it before in class. So you can do that. Infographics. Now, I know this is not as it's not maybe as interactive because it's not moving, but if you want something where you could potentially make like a poster out of it or something like that, you could use an infographic. So Pictochart's a really good one that I use regularly. Microsoft Sway I've used before too. As you saw on our Google Classroom, I have used a Microsoft Sway for my syllabus, right? And so it's not too hard. All of these you can start with a template, and then you can add your information from there. So make sure that you're working with your partner, and that you are dividing up the work, equally. So, all right, how you're going to be assessed, right? So we've been doing the standard assessment. We've been trying that out, right? And so speaking and listening is really the focus of presentations. You guys being able to speak and listen to each other, share your ideas, and present those ideas in a way that is clear and that your peers are able to understand, right? So that's really what I'm focusing on when we do our presentations. So here you can see the first one. It's talking about presenting information, findings, and supporting evidence, conveying a clear and distinct perspective such that listeners can follow the line of reasoning. So that's all about that clarity, making sure that the information you're providing, you're backing it up with evidence from your text, all right? So don't just say, oh, well, the women aren't represented as much as the men. Why? Give us reasons. And with those reasons, say, well, we know this because in this scene, we see this guy, he gets the job before the women does, or whatever, right? That's just an example. But you see my point. We want to make sure that we're backing up everything we're saying with evidence from the text. Take it back to the text, right? All right. That way it's clear and that our peers can understand. The next is organization, development, substance, and style. So making sure that it's presented in a way that's well organized, right? Again, that goes in with that clarity. But you also want to make sure that your purpose is coming through and that it's appropriate for our audience. So you wouldn't want to create something that is made for elementary kids, for example, right? We're at the high school level. So your work should be at the level where we are, if not above. So you want to shoot always for the exceeding standard, right? Because that shows that you really understand what is expected of you and that you are nailing the task right on the head. Okay. All right, on to this last one. This is the digital media part. So this is the graphics that you use, the actual presentation that you create, the digital component of that. All right, so making sure that it's not distracting. Like here, the standard is not met. That's if your media is distracting and it doesn't support the clarity or purpose of your presentation, right? So making sure that everything is aligned and that everything is clear is really important. So make sure that you create this media and integrate it in your presentation to enhance the understanding of your findings, right? So you need to be speaking while you're presenting, but it's there as a way to enhance what you found, okay? I hope that makes sense. Excuse me. All right. So if you have any questions, please feel free, shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you. Okay. I look forward to your presentations and I can't wait to see what you guys find. Bye.